Picture the scene. Two of the world's most powerful leaders, one wielding the authority of an executive order, the other stooping down to rescue a crumpled document from the floor, a scene as symbolic as it is awkward. This dramatic moment unfolded at the Group of Seven Summit in Kananaskis, Canada, where American President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer signed an agreement that, at first glance, promised to reshape the movement of billions of dollars worth of goods across the Atlantic. But as flashes from cameras illuminate their smiles and a wave of optimism sweeps through the crowd, behind the scenes, a far more complex reality is taking shape. Is this really the breakthrough that the United Kingdom has been seeking for years? Or are we witnessing just another carefully staged photo opportunity, masking deeper fissures in the so-called special relationship between these two historic allies? Let's peel back the layers of this headline-making deal to understand what's truly at stake. The United States and the United Kingdom have always had an extraordinary economic bond, one that goes well beyond the mere exchange of goods. Every year they trade nearly $148 billion worth of products, a staggering figure that places them among each other's top trading partners. Their relationship is rooted not just in economics, but in shared political philosophies, a deep well of cultural history, and a tendency to find themselves aligned on the biggest global issues of the day. Yet, as close as they may appear on the surface, the alliance has weathered its fair share of storms. Trade disputes, sudden shifts in tariff policies, and the seismic aftershocks of Brexit have all left visible cracks in this once unshakable partnership. Recent events have only heightened the tension. In the past year, President Trump has intensified his administration's use of tariffs as a tool of economic leverage, targeting multiple countries and, importantly, slapping heavy duties on British exports. The pressure on the United Kingdom's new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has been immense. He entered office with a mandate to protect the heart of British industry, especially steel, the automotive sector, and aerospace manufacturing, from the fallout of these trade wars. For both countries, increased cooperation could mean more jobs, thriving businesses, and the promise of renewed prosperity. However, as history has shown time and again, trade agreements are rarely straightforward affairs. Behind every handshake and signature lie months of intense negotiations, political calculations, and, inevitably, compromises that leave some industries satisfied and others out in the cold. So, what exactly does this much-touted agreement contain? Let's dig into the numbers and the fine print. The most immediate headline is targeted relief for specific sectors. For British carmakers, the news is nothing short of monumental. American tariffs on British cars, which previously stood at a punishing rate of 27.5%, will now be slashed to just 10%. This lower rate applies to up to 100,000 vehicles per year, a volume that closely matches the United Kingdom's current annual exports to the United States, which in 2024 hovered just above 102,000 vehicles. For the British automotive industry, which has been struggling with shrinking European sales since Brexit, this represents a lifeline. It's a move that could see tens of thousands more British-made vehicles rolling onto American highways, supporting jobs from the Midlands to Merseyside and beyond. But the benefits don't stop there. The civil aerospace sector, long considered the pride of British engineering, will enjoy complete exemption from the United States' baseline 10% tariffs. This is a huge relief for manufacturers, many of whom are deeply intertwined with American supply chains. For companies like Rolls-Royce, BAE Systems, and hundreds of smaller suppliers, this deal means continued access to a vital market, safeguarding skilled jobs and supporting the United Kingdom's reputation as a global leader in aerospace innovation. In an industry where margins are razor-thin and competition is global, this tariff exemption could make the difference between thriving and merely surviving. Agriculture, too, gets a notable boost. Under the new agreement, both countries have agreed to grant reciprocal access to 13,000 metric tons of beef per year. This may sound like a small figure in the context of global trade, but for farmers on both sides of the Atlantic, it represents a significant opportunity to expand into new markets. With the United Kingdom's average applied agricultural tariff standing at 9.2% and the United States at 5%, these reduced barriers could help both countries' farmers increase exports, modernize their operations, and compete on a larger stage. Industry leaders have been quick to praise the deal. Mike Hawes, chief executive of the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, described it as a huge reassurance to the United Kingdom automotive sector, emphasizing the confidence it brings to an industry that has faced years of uncertainty. Jonathan Reynolds, the United Kingdom's Secretary for Business and Trade, echoed this sentiment, noting that the announcement is the result of work happening at pace between both governments. On the other side of the Atlantic, the White House has pointed to the agreement as evidence that its tough stance on tariffs is paying off, opening doors for American agricultural exports and protecting key domestic industries. Yet, as the celebrations unfold, it becomes clear that not everyone is popping champagne. The most glaring omission from the agreement is steel, a sector that, for many in Britain, is as much about national pride as it is about economic necessity. The United States has refused to immediately lift its 25% tariffs on British steel, citing ongoing concerns about the ownership and security of supply chains. Instead, the two countries have agreed in principle to set up a quota system that would allow a certain amount of British steel to enter the American market tariff-free. But as of now, the exact figures and mechanisms remain shrouded in uncertainty. This vagueness has left the United Kingdom's last major steelmakers, including the iconic British Steel Company, in a precarious position. The backstory here is crucial. Britain's steel industry, once the beating heart of its industrial revolution, has been battered by decades of global competition and underinvestment. Today, the fate of its last remaining blast furnaces is a matter of national debate. The fact that British Steel's legal owner is China's Jingye Group has only heightened American anxieties about potential security risks and foreign influence. While the United Kingdom government has taken steps to exert more control over the company, these concerns linger, and so do the tariffs. As one British official privately admitted, steel tariffs remained at 25%, despite plans to drop them to zero. For workers in steel towns from Port Talbot to Scunthorpe, this is a bitter pill to swallow. Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party, did not mince words, calling it a tiny tariff deal. The limitations of the agreement don't end with steel. While the White House can unilaterally enact certain tariff reductions, a full-fledged free trade agreement between the two countries is a much taller order, one that requires congressional approval in the United States. This means that the current deal is, in many respects, a tactical patch rather than the transformative solution that many had hoped for. The British government, for its part, is required to keep its parliament informed about the implementation of quotas on American beef and ethanol, a reminder that domestic politics on both sides can complicate even the most carefully negotiated arrangements. So, what are the real-world implications of this deal, and what does it mean for the future of transatlantic trade? On the surface, the immediate reductions in tariffs for cars, aerospace, and select agricultural products could inject genuine momentum into trade between the two allies. British carmakers, who have long looked to the vast American market as a crucial outlet, can now hope to see their vehicles competing on more equal footing. For smaller manufacturers and parts suppliers, the ripple effects could be even broader, leading to new investments, job creation, and the preservation of industrial know-how. The aerospace sector is perhaps even more optimistic. With a complete exemption from Washington's sweeping tariffs, British companies are well positioned to expand their partnerships with American firms, participate in joint research and development projects, and continue to set the pace in areas like aviation technology and green aerospace solutions. This is more than just a short-term win. It solidifies the United Kingdom's role as a key player in a sector that is vital to both national security and economic growth. Agriculture, too, stands to benefit. For British farmers, gaining access to American markets for beef and other products could help offset the challenges posed by Brexit and increased competition from European suppliers. On the American side, farmers and ranchers now have a meaningful opportunity to tap into the British market, which has traditionally been difficult to penetrate due to strict food safety regulations and consumer preferences. This could catalyze new investments in both countries' rural economies, supporting everything from family farms to food processing industries. Yet, for all the positive headlines, there are significant clouds on the horizon. The unresolved issue of steel threatens to become a major flashpoint. If the United States and United Kingdom cannot agree on key details, such as the transparency of British Steel's ownership structure and the volume of quota-free imports, trade tensions could easily flare up again. Some insiders warn that a failure to resolve these disputes may push the United Kingdom to look more seriously at alternative partners, potentially pivoting toward the European Union or Asian markets to make up for lost ground. Such a move would have profound implications for the future of the special relationship. From the perspective of everyday consumers, these changes are anything but abstract. The price tags on cars in showrooms, the origin of steaks in supermarkets, even the security of jobs in major industries like steel and aerospace, all are shaped by the fine print of trade agreements like this one. For those working in the affected sectors, the agreement could mean new opportunities, more exports, expanded operations, and a renewed sense of stability after years of uncertainty. For others, particularly in the beleaguered steel sector, the future remains clouded by anxiety and an urgent need for further negotiation. Investors and entrepreneurs would do well to keep a close eye on these developments. Trade realignment on this scale can create sudden winners and losers, reshuffling supply chains, altering competitive dynamics, and opening up spaces for innovation. In the coming months, watch for announcements from major automotive and aerospace companies, as well as for lobbying efforts by the steel industry and agricultural groups. The battle for influence in Washington and Westminster is far from over. So, what lessons can we draw from this high-profile deal? First, it is a stark reminder that trade policy is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. These agreements touch real lives, shaping communities, industries, and the trajectory of national economies. They are the product of complex negotiations, where political expediency, economic priorities, and public opinion all collide. The devil, as always, is in the details. Second, while the current agreement offers targeted relief and the promise of closer cooperation, it falls short of the sweeping transformation that many had hoped for. Unresolved issues, especially in steel and agriculture, hang over the deal like a sword of Damocles. Whether these can be addressed in the coming months will determine whether the agreement serves as a foundation for deeper partnership or simply a temporary truce in a longer battle over trade. Third, the deal provides a fascinating glimpse into the evolving nature of the United States-United Kingdom relationship. Gone are the days when a handshake between Washington and London could set the tone for the global economy. Today, both countries must balance a web of competing interests, domestic industries, international rivals, and the ever-present pressure to deliver for their own citizens. This agreement, then, is as much about managing expectations as it is about lowering tariffs. If we look to history, we can see that trade deals between these two nations have always been fraught with both promise and peril. From the Lend-Lease Act during World War II, which solidified the Allied effort, to the more recent drama of Brexit and its ripple effects, economic diplomacy has often served as both glue and solvent for Anglo-American relations. In each era, the stakes have been enormous, and today is no different. The current agreement may not be a grand bargain, but it could prove to be a vital stepping stone toward a new era of transatlantic cooperation, if, and only if, both sides can resolve the remaining sticking points. Looking ahead, several scenarios could play out. In the most optimistic case, the agreement catalyzes a substantial increase in bilateral trade and investment, driving economic expansion, creating thousands of new jobs, and serving as a blueprint for future negotiations. Reduced tariffs on key sectors could stimulate exports, encourage innovation, and enhance the global competitiveness of both economies. Alternatively, if the unresolved issues around steel and agriculture fester, tensions could escalate, undermining trust and prompting both countries to look elsewhere for strategic partnerships. Such a breakdown would not just be a setback for business, it would signal a deeper rift in the special relationship that has shaped the world for generations. For policymakers, business leaders, and citizens alike, the message is clear. Stay alert to these shifting dynamics. Whether you are a business owner planning your next expansion, an employee in a threatened industry, or simply a curious observer, understanding the intricacies of trade agreements is increasingly vital. These deals may seem distant and technical, but they can have a direct impact on your pocketbook, your job prospects, and even the prices you see at the store. Here's something you might not hear on the evening news. For all its limitations, this agreement is being closely watched by officials on both sides as a kind of dress rehearsal for much larger negotiations to come. The governments in Washington and London are monitoring public reaction and industry feedback, ready to adapt, scale up, or pivot if the political winds shift. Insiders suggest that if this tactical win can be parlayed into broader trust and cooperation, the stage could be set for a truly comprehensive free trade agreement in the future, one that tackles not just tariffs, but also the challenges of digital trade, environmental standards, and technological innovation. So, what do you think? Are these tactical victories enough to keep the special relationship on track, or do you see deeper fault lines emerging between Washington and London? Will the unresolved disputes over steel and agriculture spark new rows or open doors to even greater collaboration? The stakes, as always, are high, not just for the United States and the United Kingdom, but for the stability and prosperity of the global economy. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping global economics and technology. Stay tuned, because in today's interconnected world, every deal, every handshake,